Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Sarah Liz and I have another box card video for you. We're getting fancy. I'm obsessed with these bee dies and I kept waking up in the middle of the night thinking about a hexagon beehive box card. And this is it. It will fold flat to fit in an envelope. I put mine in an A6 envelope, but a 5x7 envelope would also work. I'm using a couple of die sets. So the Be Happy die set from Pixi Dust, and it's got a ton of pieces, 3 full bees with layering pieces. I'm also using this Clouds and Grass Slimline stencil to make the clouds up in my sky. I'm also bringing in a few die sets from scrapbook.com. This is the Nested Hexagons set, and it is huge. There are so many sizes. I did not use the 3 largest, but the 3 after that. And then the scrapbook.com slim strips dies that we'll use for our second card, but I thought I'd just show you everything at the beginning. So I cut 2 light blue hexagons, and then I taped my largest and smallest of the 3 that I've chosen for those yellow pieces, and the second largest and smallest for the black piece. And I just taped those together and cut them out at the same time to create a frame. I'm going to begin by assembling my bees, and this bee we see from the back. And so I have just cut the very top off of the black stripes for his body. You don't have to. I just kind of like him better that way. And then I'm going to trim off the antenna because when I glue my black antenna onto the top, I didn't want to have to worry about lining it up perfectly with the yellow ones. You certainly could sort of color in the yellow ones with a black marker just to make that a little bit easier, but this way worked for me. Then I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and I've cut the wings out of some like shimmery vellum. I like the shimmery. It's still got that thin lightness to it, but it hides the glue a little bit better and it feels fancy. Next, on this little bee, we're going to play around with this set a little bit. So I'm attaching the body just like you normally would, but you can see the antenna on the face and on the body are not the same because I'm mixing and matching. This is the face for the baby bee, right? There's a baby bumblebee and it's super cute. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the antenna off of both, and then I'll glue the face down. And the head on that sort of backer is a little bit taller. I will just trim around that, and I can sort of mix and match my pieces, right? There's the face that normally goes on this bumblebee. I'm going to go ahead and add the antenna, and I don't even remember if this is the set that goes with this face. It's just whichever one I thought was cute. And I'll glue those to the top, and then I have cut out the eyes and the nose and the mouth. Like, these are just the pieces that were originally in the face, and I used a black marker to color them in, so I didn't have to recut that piece out. It worked real slick. Then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back so I can add, again, my same shimmery vellum wings, and that will make the 2 bees that we are going to add on to this card. They're super cute. They're super quick and easy. I love that Pixi Dust Designs does such a great job of designing the pieces so they go together in ways that just make sense. Like, I don't have to keep referring to packaging or anything to figure out what goes where. This is the piece that will be the back of our card, and so I'm just adding a little ink blending around the edges to create some extra interest. And then I'm going to start creating my frame pieces. I have one of my yellow frames, and I'm going to add this black piece. It's actually a glossy black cardstock right around the edges. I find that that darker layer creates enough contrast that the pieces on the inside of our box card really stand out. Then I will set that aside to dry. On our back panel, I wanted to create some clouds. I like the blue and the brightness that it brings to this otherwise like yellow and black scene. So I have cut both sets of the cloud dies from that Pixi Dust set. This one goes kind of straight across, and I'm bringing it down a little bit lower. I glued it onto my back panel, and I'm just going to trim around the edges so that it matches the size of our card. I will add the other clouds to our middle layer. I have 2 pieces of cardstock that are 3/4 of an inch by 2 1/2 to 1/4 inches. And I am scoring at 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch, right? And so I've now created 3 equal sections, and those are going to be added to this piece so that it can pop up on the inside of our card, and we'll have 3 separate layers of dimension. Next, I have 2 pieces that are 2¼ inches by 1¼ inch, and I am scoring at 3/8 of an inch and 7/8 of an inch. That yellow frame is not quite 3/8 of an inch. So after I score that, I'm going to trim just the littlest bit off of each of those edges. So I just made the 2 pieces here, but first we're going to attach this outside piece. The middle section here is 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's going to be how wide our box card is. And I am just folding along each of those score lines, and I'm going to add some glue to the skinny tab, and I'm lining it up on the edge. I want the fold line to line up with the outside edge of the hexagon without really going up past it. I don't really want to see that from the front of my card. And I cut it out of blue because it's going to blend in better to that blue sky and the background of my card. I cut it first from yellow, and it just stood out too much as I started assembling everything. So I attached the other one to the opposite side. It's got to be directly opposite because that will allow the card to fold flat. So here you can see, like, from the side, that'll stand up a little bit. This piece is going to be nestled in between that sky and the background and that front of our box card. And so I have chosen the clouds that have like the rolling clouds. And so it's going to come up a little higher. You'll still be able to see the background clouds behind it. And I am just gluing that to the very top and then a little bit on the sides. And again, I'll use my scissors to trim that off. And I will save the rest of those cloud pieces for another project because you know I'm going to hoard my glitter cardstock. I have cut 3 of these hexagon hive pieces, and I'm stacking them up because they're going to stick up right in the middle of my card, and I need them to have a little stability. They aren't attached by a whole lot as we're adding them to our card. So I'm just checking to make sure I don't have any glue kind of hanging on the inside of my card or on the inside of my hexagons. And once I've got that all figured out, I will add glue just to these little bits that are going to overlap that yellow frame, and they fit perfectly. It's like I know they're all hexagons, but I didn't expect them to nestle quite this well together. It's so perfect. So I am gluing it just where it's overlapping that yellow cardstock, and at 3 layers of 110 pounds, it's nice and sturdy. Next, the arrow is pointing at the inside light blue piece that's holding our box card together. And so I have chosen the exact same sides of my box card. It's got to be the same sides. And these pieces, remember, are scored every 1/4 inch. And so I am gluing just on that one flap. And just like before, I'm going to line that up so that it is going right up against the outside edge, but not over the outside edge. This is particularly important on the inside because if I push that beyond the boundary of that yellow frame, it's not going to fit very well in there, and then it won't open or close very well. I will add my other flap to the opposite side. These are going to line up with the same sides of the front of our card where we've already added the other flaps. Okay, so now we have another layer of our box. I am going to begin by attaching the middle layer. I've used double-sided tape here mostly because that glitter cardstock is very difficult to glue things onto. Like, you can do it, but you have to hold it for a long time, and I'm super impatient. So I am just laying it down. Once again, I want the score line to line up right with the edge of the hexagon. And then I'm going to fold this flap, right? I've taken the adhesive off of it. I'm folding that flap, and then I am going to fold the other side flat. I want to make sure the card is going to fold flat in the envelope. And so I don't want to assemble this while it's all popped up. To attach the front to the base of my card, I am going to add glue to the inside skinny flap. Okay, that's the inside of it. And I am going to lay the base of my card on top of that. I'm folding that piece flat, and then I'm going to wrap it around and make sure that it's butting tightly up against it. Okay. I want to make sure that everything is going to fold flat and then pop up, and the layers are going to be neat and tidy. Then I will open it up again and add glue to the inside skinny flap, and I am going to close my box card and wrap that around it and press the whole card flat to make sure that it can. All right, it's really, really important to make sure that it can. I am also adding double-sided tape mostly because I was too impatient to wait for that glue to dry before I moved on. Ultimately, I am going to add another light blue hexagon to the back right here so that I have a little extra stability for my card and I'm covering up those hinges. Okay, so this will layer beautifully, but I'm going to make sure I'm coming in from the sides that don't have our box hinges. Just to make sure that everything is lined up really, really well. I have this B-Day stamp and die set from Pink and Main, and I'm just going to use the Happy B-Day sentiment here. I'm actually going to do two because there's a bonus card in the second half of this video, and we are going to white heat emboss that. I would check out Pink and Main's sales section. At the time I'm recording this voiceover, they still have that stamp and die bundle in the sales section. It's $16 for the pair, which I just blew my mind. Absolutely incredible. And the stamp set is so, 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 so cute. So I will link that below, but definitely worth checking out. And it coordinates so beautifully with this pixie dust set. I couldn't help myself. So I stamped and heat embossed two Happy B-Day sentiments, and now I'm just trimming around it. I use the finger guard for my trimmer to line up the white heat embossing, like right at the edge of it, to make sure all of my margins are the same. And then I trimmed out a little yellow piece that is very slightly larger. Again, I made two of these, and one of them I am saving for our second card. So I'm going to start adding the pieces to my box card, and I've added just a little glue to the wings and then the very bottom, like the stinger of our happy little bee. He wouldn't sting anybody, right? And again, I'm just checking to make sure that everything will fold flat, plus folding it gives me a little extra leverage for pressing that glue down into my bee, onto my card, making sure everything sticks. Here I am very carefully and delicately adding the glue only to that black hexagon pattern, and I've tucked a piece of scrap paper in there while I press it flat to make sure I don't glue anything shut. I'm going to do the same thing as I add my Happy Bee Day. I'm adding glue only onto the black hexagon pattern, and I will tuck that right in there. And so the top bee and my sentiment are on the middle layer of my card, and then one of the bees is on the front panel. Once again, I'll use a little piece of scratch paper just to make sure I'm not getting any glue on my background or gluing anything shut that I don't want to. And I've accidentally tucked a wing in there. That's okay. A little bee surgery, and we'll free the wing, and that bee will be just fine. But that's it. That's my box card. It uses the same basic principles of every other box card, right? It's got to fold flat going one way or the other. This again fits beautifully into an A6 envelope, which is slightly larger than an A2, but you could also put it in a 5x7. That's what I was showing you in the video. So this is our bonus card. I love the look of that box card, but I know that that's not a project everyone's going to tackle. So this has a lot of the same elements, but is quicker to put together and a little easier, less measuring. So I have the same large white hexagon, right? This is the fourth from the largest from that scrapbook.com set, and I'm using spiced marmalade and mustard seed just to blend a real quick background on there. Then I'm going to add some strips of cardstock. This is a glitter cardstock, and I am just temporarily adhering that. We're going to splatter, and I don't want splatter on my specialty cardstock, in part because it won't dry at the same rate, and I'm impatient. Then I'm adding little strips of glue, and I'm attaching my non-specialty cardstock to my background. I love the scrapbook.com slim strips dies for this because I hoard my specialty cardstock. I do not throw any of it away, but I'm able to cut out these really beautiful, useful strips from even the tiniest little scraps using those dies, where normally I'd be looking at it going, I don't think I have any dies small enough to make that useful. So if you've thought about strip dies, I would take a look at these. They were the cheapest strip dies I found, and they work really, really well. I love them. I am removing my specialty cardstock pieces, and then I'm just coming in with some acrylic paint, and I'm going to add a little bit of splatter. So I've got white, I've got a glossy black, and a gold, and I'm trying all of the flicks. And it's such a mess. I managed to cover my entire hand in white paint. So now I'm trying flicking it off the block because I saw Christina Werner do it, but I feel like it's too directional. How do you flick your flicks, you guys? Let me know. I'm still trying to figure out my best way to make the least mess and still get a nice splatter effect. So I could use your help. Let me know in the comments below. Next, we're going to put together all 3 bees for this card, and we're going to use them mostly as they were designed. I can't help myself though. I trimmed off that little piece on, this is again the bee that we see from the back, and I'm adding a little bit of glue at the top so I can add the antenna. Again, especially on the box card, it might have worked better to leave the original antenna, color them black, and then add this second layer just for some added stability. But here, this one's going to be flush against the card, and so really trimming them off is super quick and easy. I have some leftover black cardstock with double-sided adhesive on it from some pieces I cut out a while ago, and so I have used those for the bodies here, but really glue was probably faster. Anyway, I wanted to use it up. I have it, so we gave it a try. I'm trimming off the antenna. This is our little baby bee that I love so much, and I'm going to inlay the eyes and nose and mouth. These are some tiny pieces. If you don't want to do this, you can just use a black marker on that base piece and color it in black, then lay the head on top of that and the black will show through, and you do not need to inlay these pieces. I like the look of inlay. I like that these don't look recessed behind the face, and so for me, I'm willing to fiddle with some small pieces. It doesn't really bother me. I love this pickup stick. The tip is from Trinity Stamps, but I keep losing my Trinity Stamps tool, so this is my backup when I can't find that one. There are 2 little arms and 2 little legs that go on this chubby little bee, and it's so cute. I don't know that you need to include those, right? He looks pretty complete without them, but it does add another little layer of dimension that's adorable. And then I'll add a little bit of glue to our shimmery wings. This one we'll see from the front, so obviously I'm using the shiniest side of my shimmer vellum. And then we are going to move on to our 3rd bee. These come together really quickly. Like, I can assemble 3 bees in 5 minutes, maybe less. And so I'm adding my little black body, and then I will add the face. And again, I'm going to trim off those little antennae. Let me know what you would do. Would you trim the antenna, or would you just color them in black and skip gluing the little tiny antenna piece on? Like, how would you go about this? For some reason, the way I'm showing you is what seemed easiest at the time, but as I'm looking at it in editing, I'm like, maybe there was a simpler way to do this. So here is my tiny little antenna. I do like that it adds that little bit of black kind of coming onto the forehead too. It's just a nice little added detail. And then I will grab my wings and I will add a little bit of glue to those, and I'll center my bee right on top. And that is my trio of bees that we will add to the front of this card. Again, we did all of that work on the inside, right? So we have our ink blending and we have our splatter, and we're going to have those stripes. But the bees are really the focal, and they're going to cover a lot of that up. So you could even skip some of that. Like in the last video, I am adding a frame of black glossy cardstock to the inside edge of our yellow frame. This just really helps everything to pop so that it draws your eye kind of towards the middle. It feels dimensional, where without it, it kind of feels like things get lost. I've added some double-sided tape to the back of that, and I have cut a piece of acetate using that largest hexagon, and I'm going to lay that right behind it. You could certainly trim off any extra acetate if you don't get it laid on there perfectly. For the first time in my life, I did. I was sort of shocked. I cut this hive piece out of some black cardstock and I put double-sided adhesive on the back from scrapbook.com, and it works so well for this. I didn't want to put glue on the back of that and have it ooze out and then you can see the glue on the acetate. And again, I am just shocked at how well this nestles into those hexagon, larger hexagon shapes. So now I'm coming back to my background panel and the paint has dried and I'm adding in my specialty cardstock again. So I have 2 strips of that glossy black cardstock and a strip of glitter cardstock, white glitter cardstock. And again, these were cut from scraps. Really, these are pieces I otherwise would have needed to throw away, except I have these strip dies. I'm telling you, give it some thought. If you haven't thought about it before, I save so much cardstock of stuff that like it kills me to throw it out. So I'm trimming around the outside edge just to make everything kind of neat and tidy, and that will finish the background. I have added some sequins to the inside. I think this mix is from Hero Arts. I got it in like a grab bag kind of deal, and I want a ton. I want this to be a sparkle bomb, but I also need to be able to close this up. So I'm using my finger and trying to get the flattest layer I can. And then these are some tiny little seed beads that I've had for ages. I used to make jewelry. I used to own a jewelry shop. So I have lots of these little things kind of laying around. And again, I'm kind of spreading them flat. And then I've got some double-sided adhesive foam strips. This is from Heffy Doodle. And it's not quite a double layer of foam. It's almost like 1.5. I will say I love the width and I love the height of these foam strips, but getting the backers off was kind of a challenge. So I will use it again. I think it simplified putting this together, but do know that backer is rough. I am going to add my sentiment and my bees to the front of my card, and I've switched to my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. It just works a little better for me when I'm trying to glue onto something like acetate, but I'm being really careful. I'm only putting glue towards the very middles of my pieces. So the middles of the body, for some reason I thought I was gonna put glue on his antenna. That does not work. And they don't lay flat enough really to stick to the card anyway. So just 2 little dots in the middles of the bee body, and I will lay that one down. And then this last one I'll add on, and I'm gonna put my heavy acrylic blocks on top of this. I don't wanna crush it, but I wanna make sure I've got good contact between my bees and the acetate while it's drying, so I don't have anything falling off later. I have a piece of heavyweight white cardstock that I folded in half, and I'm taking my largest hexagon and I am taping it so that the top edge is hanging off of that cardstock ever so slightly. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and you're going to see just the edge of that die is off of the cardstock, and that's how I'm going to make my card base. If I'm going to go through all the trouble to make a giant hexagon shaker, we might as well make a hexagon shaped card. I love it so much. I'm going to go ahead and glue my shaker onto my card base, and that will make it so that this is a really special and unusual card for whoever I end up giving it to. I'm building up my stash of birthday cards, as you might be able to tell, and anything with a nice punny sentiment, anything with some cute little critters, and I am all in. I'm flipping this over just to make sure I'm pressing firmly without crushing that acetate, and that will finish off our card. It's got tons of shaky, sparkly bits. It opens up, and I've got plenty of room to write a message, and that will help it to stand up on display as well. Those are our 2 card projects for today. If you like these cards, please give them a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.